It's the last thing you think of before you shut your eyes, and first thing you think of when you wake up. The pain just never goes away.
Some people will say, time to let go. But what if I let go and then there's that one thing that could have led us to him?
The anguish of those left behind, years after their relatives disappeared.
I think he looks like me there. More here.
Paul Hartley's children remember him as a family man who loved football, gardening and hill walking. But 8 years ago, the dad of 3 and grandfather of 1, who'd struggled with his mental health, vanished from his home in Dumbarton.
He went missing quite a few times before this, but always took his phone, and the police always contacted saying, "We've picked up your dad again." It must have happened about maybe 7 or 8 times.
And I suppose that must have been one of the difficult things about it, if he had been missing before, but he'd always come back, and this time he hadn't.
His phone was left along with his house keys this time.
Bank cards and things as well. Everything was left this time.
Mm-hmm.
At the start, you're obviously very angry with him. You go through so many emotions, like saying, why has he done this again? But this time we knew it was quite serious because he left his phone.
That sparked a desperate hunt for answers. The family organised searches on foot and even enlisted divers and private dog search teams to look for their dad.
We went to psychics, didn't we? We were clutching at straws. I'm not really interested. I don't believe in them at all. But we went just to see if we can get anything from it. Some of them says he's gone and he was in, like we checked, remember the bit down
in Ballock?
Ballock, I said he was in water.
As the years passed, the family lost hope until this picture surfaced last year. It had been taken outside Glasgow Central railway station.
We're convinced it's him, definitely, 100%. It was a campaign, something to do with homeless people, and my mum saw it and she showed me, and I was like, wait a minute, that's my dad.
As soon as I seen the photo, I just started crying, and then I just drove into town straight away, and me and my mate just kind of looked about, and I spoke to a couple of people who were homeless, and I just took his photo in, and some of them said, I recognise his face. We later found out the photo was actually taken in 2019, so it was a couple of years before, which obviously was a bit disheartening. Up until that photo, I didn't believe I'd ever see him again. I really didn't. But this photo's renewed hope.
If your dad was watching this, what would you say to him?
What I believe, if he is out there, there's a fear factor of he's been away too long now, so what do I do? Just go back and chap the door and say, I'm back here, you know. So if you ever seen this, I'd say please come home. It's never too late, and your kids love you.
We need you back.
That is the very first picture we got of Paul. 53 when he went missing from Whiteford Avenue in Dumbarton, 28th of September in 2014.
Police Scotland has 700 open long-term missing person cases on its books. People who've not made contact with their loved ones for years, and in some cases, decades.
All missing person reports, when they're not traced, all remain live as missing person inquiries within the Police Scotland systems. Procedurally, after 28 days, somebody would be classed as a long-term missing person. That would be subject to review by a senior investigating officer, normally a detective inspector rank. The further reviews are conducted after 3 months, 6 months and 12 months, and then it goes on to a yearly long-term missing person review cycle, just to see if there's any new or fresh information.
So is that our last wee update on the public website for Sandy Davidson? That's good description. 2 good pictures of a nice reconstruction. Just a wee toot when he went missing.
The work that went on there with the police and all the volunteers and that, they would have found something. That's what I just think.
It's now 1 year. Do you feel stronger in this belief?
I think they all believe that they've been safe and all right, and that somebody's got them.
The disappearance of Sandy Davidson is one of the longest running cases, dating back 46 years. He was a month shy of his 4th birthday when he went missing from his grandparents' garden in Irvine.
Was Donna the last person to see him?
She was playing with him. Sandy came running back in and told my mother that the dog had got loose. Well, she went out and it was just sitting on top of the hill. And then the next thing Donna was in saying that Sandy was away.
So Donna, we're back at St Kilda Bank. You were only 2 when your big brother went missing. Do you remember anything of that day?
No. All I do know is we were out in the garden playing on Friday morning, and for some reason the gate was open and Sandy went out and I went out after him. I returned and Sandy never. I've lived my full life loving somebody and aching for somebody, and I've not even got a single memory of him at all. It's the no knowing. I know deep in my heart that Sandy's been murdered.
As Donna and her parents tried to cope with the void created by Sandy's disappearance, they spent a lot of time by the sea. Decades on, the coast is still where she goes to seek peace. Donna, your whole life you've been living with not knowing where your brother is. How has that been for you?
I've had a lot of emotions. One of my big ones was feeling guilty that I was still here and he was away. Really, it's like a living nightmare. I rack my brain every single day trying to think what had happened. And then I get angry with myself for not being able to get my mum and my dad answers. But the two of them are getting older, and I've heard both of them saying they need to know what happened to their son before they pass away.
The police say the investigation's still open. They're still keen to try and find answers for you and your family.
I know it was a long time ago and the chances are slim, but at the end of the day, he was only a child and his body's out there somewhere, dead or alive. His body's there, they should be doing more to try and find it.
Last month, Sandy would have celebrated his 50th birthday. Every anniversary, every milestone strengthens his little sister's resolve to find him.
As the years go on and people say, oh, it'll get easier, it doesn't get easier. I'd say, if anything, it gets harder because you're still looking for the answers. It's emotionally draining. It actually hurts, my heart actually aches. It's no life. And that's... He shouldn't be away, he should still be with us.
Some incredibly moving stories there. Well, so far this year, 4,500 people have been reported missing in Scotland. Trying to help the police with their quest for answers is a group of students who are hot on the heels of some long-standing cases.
It's a biker bar.
And this is where he was found.
And this is where he was found, yeah.
Exploring every lead, students at Glasgow Caledonian University are trying to work out the identity of a man whose remains were found in Edinburgh in 1987.
So I wonder how far it is from the castle.
It's a painstaking process, but they hope their research will help provide answers. This is just one of 9 investigations the unit is working on.
We look at cases where people are missing and we know the identity of that person, but we don't know where they are. But we also take on cases where human remains have been found, where a body's been found, but we have no way of identifying that person at the moment.
And what would normally happen in these cases? Do the police stop working on a case after a while?
A cold case is any case that's 12 months older or longer. And it's not that the police stop working on them, but without any new leads to work on, then there's nowhere to go for the police. So one of the things that we can do is we can come in and look at those cases, take them on, and maybe follow other lines of inquiry, try new things that maybe haven't been tried before, try to update some of the evidence that might be within them.
You don't physically deal with human remains?
No. When we get the case, what we're doing is we're looking a lot of times at open source intelligence. We're going into archives, we're using a lot of social media and digital communications that may not have existed at the time these bodies were found.
For the students, this is like a real life experience, isn't it? This just couldn't be replicated.
I think it's a fantastic opportunity for them because they're effectively getting to be investigators. They've got 21 incredibly enthusiastic students with the time on their hands and fantastic ideas. And I think that's maybe one of the things that we see our work as supporting the police, not trying to duplicate what they do. Because for us, I suppose it's twofold. We're trying to solve the case, but we're also trying to develop the students into the future investigators.
One mystery the team is trying to solve is the identity of a man who was found 35 years ago in Regent Road Gardens in Edinburgh.
It's believed that he was either homeless or he may have been a street artist. He had a number of belongings on him. He was wearing a silver Catholic medallion, and he had a rucksack containing a few items, including a watch and, most significantly, a sketchbook. So we're trying to build up a picture really of this man's movements, a visual map of where he's been, but trying to really unpack the significance or the potential significance of these locations to him.
So we've got this image of a bar in Aberdeen, so we think this man may have travelled to Aberdeen to sketch this.
Absolutely. Of significance is that this bar is frequented by bikers. So again, that may give us an indication as to the type of community that he was part of. So hopefully when we go out to appeal on this case, people who frequented this bar or are part of that community may actually recognise him. And if we do find a name for him, then hopefully we can repatriate him with any family that may be out there who are missing him.
And providing closure is what drives these criminology students to give up their time on a voluntary basis.
Missing people have always kind of fascinated me, just because they've came from somewhere, they've went somewhere and they belong to somebody. It's somebody's son, daughter, mum, dad, sister, brother.
I just find it very sad that some people have gone missing, they're lost and no one knows where they are, or no one's searching, or someone's searching but not in the right place, and it would be nice to give families closure.
And sometimes it's like tiny wee details that you hone in on, is that right?
Yeah. And you get quite excited when you get something that you're like, that's it.
We've got the time to do that.
There are families out there with someone missing, and that's a significant strain on a family to not know, to not have any answers. And so we hope that in the work that we do, by building up this jigsaw, by finding these additional pieces that we can then provide to the police, that we could perhaps bring some resolution.
Our students can dedicate a lot of time and a lot of resource to looking at things, and some of those might be rabbit holes. They might spend an awful lot of time researching something which ultimately doesn't actually give us an answer that we need for that case, but nonetheless we've closed off a line of inquiry and they've had a learning process in doing so. But you never know which one of those rabbit holes might be the one that also gives you something that helps you try and identify this person.
You're born, you're named, and I believe that you should have your name after you've died.